Habari za jioni. Kwa jina naitwa Benjamin. My name is Benjamin Fernandez. As Emily mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of Nala, and today I have the pleasure of announcing one of the biggest things we're announcing today is a $5 million investment we'll be making in the Kenyan tech ecosystem over the next several years. This is equivalent to over 631 million Kenyan shillings is what we're looking to invest in Kenya. Kenya is the place that hosts our global headquarters right now, and it's a place that we see a lot of technology growing. Kenya's technology ecosystem nearly hit $300 million in investment last year alone, and it's been growing significantly year over year. Now at Nala, we're on a mission to increase economic opportunity for Africans around the world. This is something that's very important for us, and all of our work that we do as an organization is based on these principles that we really care about directly to involve, whether it's from consumers and whether it's from businesses. Now if we look this at statistically showing what this means, last year alone in Kenya, we signed a contract with Equity Bank, one of the leading banks here in Kenya, to enable direct payments from diaspora abroad into bank accounts in Kenya, as well as mobile money wallets. Till today, we are the only service that enables every single bank account in Kenya, as well as every single mobile wallet directly from the United States, the UK, and 19 countries in Europe, including Germany, Italy, France, and all the main big ones as well. As we're here today, one of the priorities that we have for us and with Honorable Rosalind, who's with us today, is our work in the diaspora. So we really prioritize what we're trying to do with the diaspora across the world. One of the recent features we launched was direct pay bills, enabling diaspora across the world, Kenyan diaspora, to pay directly to pay bill numbers here in Kenya, instantly through Apple Pay, Google Pay, or any bank in the United States, any bank in the UK, and most banks in Europe directly, so they can enable those transactions. Now, historically looking at it, over the past year, Kenyans abroad sent nearly $4 billion to Kenya alone, according to the Central Bank of Kenya. To compare that, all of Kenyan exports sent $5 billion. So which means Kenyan diaspora, which is a population of 3 million people globally, some similar amounts to the entire exports for a country of 55 million people, which shows you the importance of what Honorable Rosalind and her ministry are doing in order to connect the diaspora globally of Kenyans everywhere around. So I'm excited today to be here with you. Karibu sana to the Nala offices. And as I mentioned today, this investment is not, we're here in Kenya to not try, we're here in Kenya to do. And this is something that's really a big priority for us as a business. We've been investing in Kenyan technology, Kenyan software engineers as well, and this is why we're here today to announce this big information for us as a business. Investing 630 million Kenyan shillings is not an easy fit for us to do, but it's something that is important for us to be part of in building the Kenyan tech ecosystem. Karibu sana, Honorable Rosalind. I'm really happy that you're here with us today.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me here at Nala. But also, let me congratulate you on all of the work that you're doing, particularly in banking and extending financial services to Kenya's diaspora. As you know, as you said, there are 3 to 4 million Kenyans living abroad, dispersed literally everywhere.
Yeah.
We have Kenyans, we have Kenyan on every country on the face of this earth,
wow.
Even in some of the most little places.
Yeah.
Kenyans are daring abroad where they are.
Yeah.
So of the 3 to 4 million Kenyans that we have living abroad, and the formation of this State Department for supporting their work, supporting the things that they're doing, protecting their rights, helping them to mainstream their involvement in the process of national development. When most Kenyans or most people hear about diaspora, the first thing that comes up is this idea of remittances, which is, I think, unfortunately, the first thing that people speak about. It's important, and as you've mentioned, Kenyans did send home $4 billion last year, which is, as you said, almost on par with all of our exports. But really, in terms of forex, it is higher than coffee, it is higher than tea,
wow.
It's higher than horticulture, it's higher than tourism.
Wow.
So all of our traditional forex earners have been outdone
wow.
by remittances, and we hadn't even at this point sort of structured systems for both for the collection of this remittance, but also for the investment of this remittance. And where we're going is the creation of incentives that ensure that these remittances as Kenyans continue to send money home for medical insurance and for food and for rent and so on, and support their families, which is, as you know, a very African thing to do.
Yeah.
We also want them to increasingly send money home in the form of investments. So your $5 million investment in Kenya is one of those things that we want to see more of diasporans doing, so that at some point you say X stake of NALA is actually supported by diaspora funds or diaspora investments, and that kind of thing. So of course Kenyans are already investing in various things, but increasingly we want to structure those investments. And you might have seen that we are already making changes in the infrastructure environment, in the investment environment, so that now Kenyans are able to do it digitally, online, and so on. And so we are trying to remove the barriers that have always been there for diasporans investing from home, from abroad, so that they don't have to depend on family to buy that house, or to buy those shares, or to set up that infrastructure bond. They can actually do it from the comfort of their phone, of their computer, from Helsinki.
Wow,
right? So these are some of the things that the State Department is doing. Of course, for us, it's critical that we're able to protect Kenyans' rights and welfare as a first principle, wherever they are. And then after we protect them, then we want to be able to engage them, to speak with them on social media, on conversations like this. But beyond that, then we want to be able to support them in the things that they are doing. If they are working abroad, if they have businesses that they have set up that are abroad, and so on. And then we want them to be involved in the national development process. And that sort of brings back the conversation on remittances. How can they then prosper, so that their investments at home are not purely because they are patriotic, but because it makes sense for them. So these are some of the things that we're doing. And I'm grateful to see increasingly that players like yourself and others are taking seriously the place the diaspora holds, or the work that they do as far as our national development is concerned. And so the work that's happening in bringing down the cost of remittances, but also in being able to do simple things like pay. If I apply for a new passport and I do that on eCitizen, I want to be able to clear that transaction by paying for that process on eCitizen. Until now, we've had some challenges with a number of the different payment systems, and what has happened is that Kenyans have had to call home and say, hey, I'm trying to finish this transaction, can you pay for me on M-Pesa, and then I'll pay it back. And some entrepreneuring family members will give you an exchange rate of 180 shillings to the dollar or whatever. So it's really important for Kenyans to be able to complete those transactions, particularly on eCitizen, because that is how you do business with government. So this is a really welcome improvement. This is a welcome launch of service, and we are grateful that you're partnering with us in terms of being able to do that sort of last mile. I don't know if you'd call last mile connectivity for Kenyans to be able to finish paying for services, but also to be able to send money home for investments and so on.
Asante sana. As Honorable Rosalind mentioned, we are one of the only services on the African continent that enable direct from Apple Pay, Google Pay to an M-Pesa account or any Kenyan bank account, which enables more connectivity for people to make those payments and directly instantly into those accounts. So with that, I'd love to open up for one or two questions, if there's any from the audience, before we proceed with our event. Questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious to know, is there any way that you're working also with other fintechs or other tech companies to help them sort of establish in the local market to help fulfill the mission of
the State Department? So that's a really good question, and the answer is yes. So I think what makes Kenya a really interesting place to be is that tech And tech enterprises are really, this is a place to sort of be if you're doing any tech businesses and so on. So yes, Nala is one of those companies, but there's conversations around Wire, for example. Wire, I think, is a diaspora banking, and I think there are the traditional banks, KCB, Equity, Coop Bank, NCBA, and the others who are extending or altering the way they sort of do business to look specifically at how to extend financial services to members of the diaspora, to extend lending to members of the diaspora in ways that make sense to them. Some of the conversations with Equity Bank, for example, and KCB and others, I have challenged them to create diaspora-specific products that speak to emerging needs, such as the need for insurance and repatriation insurance, last mile covers, and that kind of thing. So yes, a lot of conversation is going on, and I think in another year we're going to be able to see how that has changed how we do business.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd like to ask about maybe how you're going to developers, because in fact some of these costs, they are very prohibitive. Like I remember there's time we were trying to look for some license to just do local disbursements. The license was going to like 20 million from the central. So surely when I'm a developer, whether we are 3, 5, 10 or 50 or even 100 of us, and you're asking us to just pay up from the 20 million to just get a license, then what is left of it? So I truly appreciate what the government is doing, like trying to bring all the services online, the digital and all that, but some of these costs they are very prohibitive, and some of the regulations that are in the industry, they are not really for what you do. So maybe that's something we can take.
So I really like that question, Steve. And I think, as you said, government is going digital in a big way. We're taking at least 5,000 services online, as you've probably had the president say, which means that the ship has been set to go in a particular direction, right? We have changed course, we are heading this way. Going into a digital sort of infrastructure or digital ecosystem necessarily means that a number of things have to change. Government has to think about how to do business differently, move from paper, and so on. So it's constantly innovating. I expect to see those kinds of conversations being had. One of the mandates of the State Department for Diaspora Affairs, for example, is to create incentive frameworks for remittances. The question becomes, how do we make it easier for diasporans to send money home? How do we make it more efficient for them to send money home? How do we incentivize their sending money home towards investments, for example? How do we create a system, an ecosystem that makes you almost intuitively do this? So I believe that these are some of the things that we're going to be looking at. We're having lots of conversations within government about how to make this doing business in this area easier, particularly for hustlers.
Love it. Yes, final question.
Okay. Within companies like Nala and so many other companies that are now investing into Kenya even more than previous years, what is it that you would advise Kenyans to be expecting, or is there, like you said something about a shift has already been set. Is there a shift in mindset and a shift in the way things should be done, how people are living their ordinary lives with all of this that's, this investment that's in Kenya? What do the people of Kenya need to do to be in the flow of that investment that comes, to be a participant of the investment?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think, I can take do you want to take this one?
Yeah, well, I was also seeing just recently Governor Njoroge from the central bank was talking about how to enable digital services for Kenyans abroad to invest into local T-bills in Kenya, right? And so I think those are some of the services that, Honorable Rosalind and her team will be trying to champion and pioneer, like for people to be able to make those investments directly that way. So I think those are one of many different things. Us as NALA, we work directly with many different organizations here, such as Equity Bank. I see Robert Kiboti is here with us today as well, and other services as well here in Kenya in order to make these payments happen. Now, obviously it's complicated, right? Technology makes things seamless and easier, faster, and simpler. However, the challenge is even getting approvals and things like that can sometimes be difficult, not just in Kenya, but many countries across the continent. But I'm very supportive of the Kenyan Central Bank and what they're trying to do. Us as NALA, we've applied for our payment service provider license at the CBK. We're still waiting for approval, but hopefully we'll get that one soon. And once we get that one, then we can enable more and more services for the African diaspora, specifically Kenyans abroad.
I think what I'd add is that in many ways Kenyans are ahead of that wave. Kenyans have been ready for a tech wave for a lot. Kenyans started a tech wave in many ways. This is the home of M-Pesa. This is the home of many other innovations that have been built on top of M-Pesa. So Kenyans have might not need to get ready for it. They have been leading that innovation. It's the investment into that innovation that is catching up, right? And that is helping scale, that's helping make it global, take it places, right? So we have an excellent workforce as far as tech is concerned. I think you will agree. Software engineers, anywhere you throw a stone, you might hit a software engineer, right? I think there are several in the room. And other great talents working in this space. So that's why we're a tech hub. And in many ways, we service tech from here. We service many other countries with our workforce, particularly our tech workforce. Traditionally, we have seen our workforce in hospitality, for example, in healthcare and so on, exported. But increasingly, we are seeing tech and at a very high level. So Kenyans have been ahead of that wave for a long time. Perhaps what is left for us, and this sort of ties with Steve's question, is how can we support Kenyan investors in that tech wave? How do we support Kenyan businesses that want to do more with that tech wave, whether it's access to finance, whether it's making sure that private equity and other sort of sources of funds look at Kenyan business people and Kenyan ideas as valid and as important and make good investments in those. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being here with us today. We're going to take a short break and we'll come and meet you guys in the foyer area over there. Emily.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Sana.
Thank you.
Asante.
After this, we start. After the photos? After the photos now?
Yeah, we're starting.
Okay. So